It had been years since Commander Ethan Ross last saw the stars up close. The war between Earth and the Varyans had ended long ago, and he had left space behind. But one night, a strange blue light appeared over his farmhouse, silent, pulsing, familiar. When he stepped outside, the beam opened, and a figure emerged, tall, elegant, silver-eyed, an alien woman he once knew. She looked at him and whispered, "You promised to marry me, human." Years ago, during the war, Ethan was stranded on a frozen moon after a failed mission. There he met Lyara, a Varyan medic who saved his life. Over months of hiding, they grew close. They were enemies, yet shared warmth, trust, and something deeper. One night before rescue came, she told him, "When peace comes, will you find me?" And he had said yes, a promise he thought was lost in time. Now she was standing in front of him, unchanged by the years, her face glowing with alien energy. Ethan's heart raced. He thought she had died when her ship exploded after the war. Lyara told him she had survived, frozen in a time capsule until her species could revive her. When she woke, she searched for him across galaxies. Welcome to my channel Sci-Fi Love Story. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. The night was quiet, and the fields around Ethan Ross's farmhouse shimmered with the cold silver light of the moon. He had lived a simple life. Since leaving the military, a man who had once flown through the stars now spent his evenings fixing old machines and talking to himself, as if trying to forget the echoes of space. But on that night something strange happened. A blue light appeared above the barn, slow and silent. It hovered like a living thing. Ethan stepped out with a flashlight in his hand, his heart beating fast. He felt the air grow heavy. The light pulsed brighter and brighter until the beam opened, and a figure stepped out of it, tall, elegant, glowing faintly, her eyes like molten silver, her voice soft yet sharp. As she said, "You promised to marry me, human." Ethan froze. The name Lyara flashed in his mind, a name he had not spoken in years. He whispered her name, as if afraid it would break the illusion. She smiled gently. "You remember me?" He took a step back, his mind racing. Lyara was real, not a dream, not a ghost. She was the alien medic who had saved his life on the frozen moon of Thalen during the war between Earth and the Varyan Empire. He had been a pilot shot down behind enemy lines, trapped in ice and cold with no signal and no hope. She had found him half frozen and bleeding, and instead of killing him, she had carried him to a hidden cave, nursed him back to life. And in those lonely months, they had come to understand each other without words. They were enemies, yet they became something more, one. Night before the rescue ship came, she had asked him, "When peace comes, will you find me?" And he had said yes, a promise whispered in the dark. But the war had ended, and he thought she had died. Her ship destroyed, her world silent now. She stood in front of him, untouched by time. Ethan asked, "How are you here?" She said, "I was frozen in stasis. My people revived me. And I came to find you. You promised me. And I came to claim that promise." Ethan could not speak. He felt the old warmth, the old confusion. He saw in her eyes the same quiet sadness, but there was something else, fear. She looked up at the sky and said, "They know I am here. Who knows? The humans, your satellites saw my ship. Your world will not let me stay." Ethan felt a chill. He knew what that meant. Once the government detected alien tech, they would come fast. He told her to hide, but she shook her head. "I did not come only for you. I came to warn Earth. A storm is coming, one that destroys worlds." He frowned. "What storm?" She looked at him with eyes that held galaxies. "The same energy that destroyed my world. It is growing in your space. I followed its trail here, and it is close." Ethan struggled to understand, his heart fighting between love and duty. She reached out her hand. "Let me show you," she said. He hesitated, then took her hand. The moment he touched her, his vision exploded with light. He saw flashes of burning planets, fleets swallowed by dark waves, energy tearing through systems. She pulled her hand back, breathing hard. "That is what will come if they find me. They will use my ship, my power, and it will wake the storm." Ethan stepped away, his thoughts spinning. "Why come to me?" "Because you kept me alive. You believed in me. And because you promised," she said softly. A light tear ran down her cheek, glowing like liquid stars. Ethan's chest ached. He wanted to believe her, but the sound of engines filled the air. Dark drones appeared above the trees. The government had found her. She looked up. "No more time," she said. "Ethan, run." But he grabbed her hand. "We run together." They dashed across the field as the drones fired beams of light, tearing the ground around them. Lyara turned and raised her hand. A wave of blue energy burst from her body, knocking the drones away. But it drained her. She stumbled. Ethan caught her. They reached the edge of the farm, her ship still glowing in the distance. He helped her inside. The ramp closed, and the ship lifted off, silent. But fast they soared into the clouds, chased by streaks of light from human jets. Ethan sat beside her, gripping the seat. "What do we do?" She looked at him and said, "They will never let me leave. If they take me, Earth dies." He stared at her, eyes glowing brighter than ever. "What do you mean?" She said. "I am the key that binds the storm. My life holds its energy. If they extract it, they will break the seal and unleash it." Ethan said, "Then we leave together. We go where they cannot find us." She looked at him with a sad smile. "You would give up your world for me?" He said I already did once. She placed her hand on his cheek. You always were. Stubborn, she whispered. The ship trembled, alarms flashing. They were locked on. She pressed a button, and a new wave of light wrapped around them. The ship blinked out of radar. The screen outside showed only static. Ethan turned to her. Where are we going? She said. Somewhere safe. But her voice was weak, the glow in her skin fading. He tried to ask more, but the ship jolted, and everything went white. The light swallowed him. He felt weightless voices fading like echoes through water. When he opened his eyes, the farmhouse was gone there. Stars moved outside the window, and Lyara sat beside him asleep, her head resting against his shoulder. Ethan looked at her hand, still glowing faintly. He touched it and whispered, "You came back." Lyara opened her eyes slowly and said, "I never left." Then she smiled weakly before closing her eyes again. Ethan looked out at the stars, 1,000 questions in his mind. But all he could feel was the promise that still lived between them, the one he made long ago, a promise that now had pulled him back into the stars. Without warning, the ship trembled again. A voice echoed from the console, multiple contacts, approaching unknown energy signature. Ethan looked ahead and saw something vast in the darkness, like a wound in space, slowly spinning toward them. Lyara opened her eyes and whispered, "It is here." The storm, and before Ethan could speak, the light from the rift filled the cabin, and the story of the promise was just beginning. Ethan opened his eyes to the hum of the alien ship. Drifting through endless dark, the stars outside swirled like rivers of light, and space seemed to breathe around them. Lyara was already awake, her face calm, but her eyes filled with sorrow. She said softly, "The storm followed us. It knows you now." Ethan felt the floor tremble beneath his boots. He could see it out the window, a hole in space, glowing black and red, twisting like a living wound. It pulsed, as if alive, drawing everything toward it. Lyara said, "That is the rift. It destroyed my world, and now it wants yours." Ethan stared at it, unable to understand. How could a hole destroy planets? She said, "It is not a hole, it is hunger, pure energy that devours life. Every time someone tries to use Varyan power, the rift grows stronger. Your people took our technology. They do not understand what they awoke." Ethan clenched his fists. "We have to stop it." She turned her gaze to him. "There is a way, but it is not easy." She reached to a compartment beside her seat and pulled out a crystal. It shone with blue fire. "This is the heart of Varya. It can seal the rift, but it requires two souls bound by a promise." Ethan felt his pulse quicken. "What promise?" She smiled faintly. "The one you made to me long ago. The bond we share was not just words. When you spoke it, the stars heard you. The heart remembers." Ethan shook his head. "This is madness. I am only human." She touched his hand. "Gently, no, you are more than that. You are the reason I came back, because I believed the human who saved me would keep his word." The ship trembled again, alarms flashing, as if the rift was calling to them. Ethan looked out and saw lights approaching, human ships, military class. They were closing fast. Lyara's voice turned cold. "They will try to take the heart. They think it is a weapon." Ethan said, "Then we run again." She nodded and pushed the controls. The ship shot forward through the void, like a streak of lightning chased by fire. Human ships fired beams of light tearing across the dark. Ethan could see explosions behind them, but the rift was growing larger ahead, the stars bending around its edges. Lyara shouted, "Hold on." As the ship plunged into the storm, the light shattered around them, and they were somewhere else, inside a tunnel of energy that stretched forever. Ethan felt weightless, his body shaking with every pulse. He shouted over the roar, "What is this place?" She said, "Between worlds, the bridge where promises are tested." The ship spun wildly until everything went still. Silence. A stone. Lyara's glow dimmed, and she looked at him. "We are inside the rift. It feeds on memory. It will show you what you fear most." Ethan blinked, and the world around him changed suddenly. He was back on the frozen moon, lying in the snow again, bleeding, calling for help. Lyara nowhere to be seen. He turned and saw his comrades' frozen faces, eyes open, mouths silent. The war he thought he had left behind surrounded him. The voice of the rift whispered, "You failed them." Ethan dropped to his knees, gripping his head. Then he heard Lyara's voice calling his name, and the illusion shattered. He gasped as she helped him up. "You must fight it." She said, "It feeds on doubt. Believe in the promise." Ethan met her gaze and nodded. "I am not letting it win." Together they moved toward the core of the rift, a swirling sphere of darkness, lightning crawling across its surface. Lyara raised the heart of Varya. It pulsed to her heartbeat. She said, "We must connect the heart to our bond. Place your hand on it." He did the moment he touched it. The light spread through both of them, connecting their minds. Ethan saw her memories, a world of silver oceans, shining towers, laughter of children. Then fire, the rift tearing through it all. He felt her pain, her loneliness, drifting through space, waiting for him. She saw his memories too, the war, his guilt, his nights alone, staring at the stars, hopping. She was still alive. Tears formed in her eyes. "Now," she said softly. Together they lifted the heart, and a beam of blue light burst forth, striking the rift. It screamed, the darkness twisting in pain, but the power pushed back stronger than before. The ship shook apart, pieces breaking off, alarms blaring. Ethan shouted, "It's not enough." Lyara looked at him, eyes glowing bright. "I can give it more. My life force will complete it." Ethan grabbed her wrist. "No, there has to be another way." She smiled through tears. "There never was. You kept your promise now." "I will keep mine." She stepped closer, their foreheads touching for a moment. Time stopped, only the hum of the heart between them. Then she whispered, "Thank you, Human," and pushed him away as the light consumed her. Ethan screamed her name. The heart flared brighter than a sun. The rift cracked and collapsed inward, swallowing the light, until only silence remained. The ship drifted alone in calm space. Ethan floated unconscious, the heart now dull in his hands. When he woke, the stars were still, the rift was gone. Lyara was gone too. Only her pendant remained beside him, glowing faintly blue. He whispered her name again, but no answer came. He set a course for Earth and watched stars pass one by one. Weeks later, his ship landed near the same farmhouse he had left behind. The world was safe. No one knew how close it had come to ending. They called it an unexplained celestial event. But Ethan knew. He looked at the pendant and the faint shimmer within. Sometimes when he held it, he could hear her voice in the wind, saying, "You kept your promise." Years passed. Ethan grew older, but every night he would look up at the stars, the same stars that had taken her and saved his world. One evening he walked to the field where it had all begun, and the wind shimmered blue above the grass. He smiled and whispered, "I'm here, Lyara." And for a moment he thought he saw her silhouette in the light, smiling back before the sky faded to black. He turned and walked home, the promise still alive between two souls across the stars. Ethan could not sleep. The stars above seemed different. The sky shimmered with an energy he had never felt before. The pendant Lyara had left on his desk glowed faintly blue, and the air around it hummed like it was alive. He held it in his hands and felt a warmth creeping into his chest. A pulse of light streaked across the sky, and he knew it was not normal. He ran outside, the wind carrying whispers. He could almost hear Lyara calling his name. The night was alive with cosmic energy, the same that had once destroyed her world, and he realized the rift was not gone. It had only been delayed. The heart of Varya had sealed it temporarily, but some of its hunger remained. Ethan's mind raced. He had to find a way to protect Earth forever. He studied the pendant and felt a tug pulling him upward. The stars seemed to bend around him, the air thick with light, the wind rising. He stepped into the field, and the pendant floated before him, glowing brighter than ever, and then a figure emerged from the light, familiar yet changed. Lyara stood before him, her skin glowing silver, her eyes brighter than any star. She smiled and whispered, "You found me." Ethan could not speak, his heart pounding. "You are alive." He said, "How is this possible?" She said, "I never truly left. When I gave my life to the heart, part of me entered its essence. The rift could not consume all of me. I remained hidden, waiting for the right moment. And now it calls again." Ethan looked at the stars and saw the darkness pulsing far beyond Earth. The rift had grown. It hung like a shadow stretching across galaxies. Lyara took his hand, the energy of her touch spreading through him, and she said, "We have to go beyond the stars this time. We cannot fight alone. The heart is not enough. We need allies." Ethan nodded, determination filling him. Together they rose into the sky, the wind carrying them into the pendant's light. And in an instant they were aboard a new ship made of alien crystals and energy streams. It hummed as if alive. Lyara guided them through wormholes faster than light toward the source of the rift. The void between worlds stretched endlessly. Ethan felt fear and excitement, every heartbeat echoing with the promise they had made. She said, "You kept your promise now. It is time to keep mine." They passed planets destroyed and rebuilt in flashes of cosmic storms. They saw civilizations long lost swallowed by the rift, yet Ethan felt hope, because with Lyara by his side, he understood what it meant to be human and beyond human. They entered a system where the rift's pulse was strongest, and the dark energy twisted reality around them. Stars bent and moons cracked. The ship trembled, alarms blaring. Ethan held onto Lyara, her glow stabilizing the vessel. She reached for the heart of Varya, which had fused with her essence. It pulsed between them, and she said, "We will merge our energies one last time to seal it completely." Ethan placed his hand on hers. They felt a surge of power, unlike anything the universe had ever known. The light expanded outward, engulfing the rift, every shadow screaming against the brilliance. And in that moment, Ethan felt the entirety of Lyara inside him, and he knew their souls were bound not by time, not by space, but by promise. The darkness fought back with waves of energy that shattered nearby stars. Yet they did not falter. Lyara whispered, "Keep believing." He did, and together, their combined light pierced the core of the rift. It shuddered, and then began collapsing inward like a wound, closing. The universe seemed to sigh relief, the void shrinking back into nothingness. And when the light faded, Ethan and Lyara floated in space alone. The stars calm and steady. She smiled and said, "It is done forever this time." He held her close, never wanting to let go. They looked down at Earth, glowing peacefully below them. The planet safe at last. Ethan felt a wave of emotion, years of longing, fear, love, and hope all crashing into him. Lyara kissed his forehead and whispered, "I waited for you all this time. Now you can rest." He smiled and said, "I never gave up on you." Together, they descended into the atmosphere, the crystal ship, fading into a light that became one with. The sky people across the world looked up, seeing stars shimmer brighter than ever, and some whispered legends of a promise kept across the stars. Ethan and Lyara landed in the same field where it had all begun, the wind carrying whispers of old memories. They stepped out hand in hand, the pendant still glowing faintly. They looked at each other and knew their bond had become something the universe itself recognized. And from that day on they watched over Earth, silently guiding the stars, ensuring no darkness could rise. Again, Ethan knew that life would continue, and someday humanity would look to the stars and wonder who kept them safe. And perhaps they would never know, but he and Lyara would always remember the promise made long ago, a promise that spanned worlds, species and time. And as the night stretched above them, Ethan whispered, "I am here, Lyara." And together they turned toward the horizon, where the first light of dawn shimmered like silver and gold, and the stars seemed to sing the song of a love that could never die, a love that kept a world safe, and a promise that echoed across the cosmos.